have hay. Hay. If he said, I take upon myself to bring wine, he may not bring less than 3 lugam. Oil, he may not be less than a log. Rebbe says 3 lugam. I specify, but I do not know what I specified. He must be like the amount brought on the day with the greatest requirement. If one said, I take upon myself to bring an olah, he brings a lamb. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says either a pigeon or a young dove, and I specify from cattle, but I do not know what I specified. He must bring a bull and a calf. From animals, but I do not know what I specified. He must bring a bull, a calf, a ram, a kid, and a lamb. I specify, but I do not know what I specified. He answered them, a pigeon and a young dove. I take upon myself to bring a Toda offering or a Shlomin offering. He brings a lamb. I specify from cattle, but I do not know what I specified. He must bring a bull and a cow and a male calf and a female calf. From animals, but I do not know what I specified. He must bring a bull and a cow, a male calf and a female calf, a ram and a ewe, a male kid and a female kid, a male goat and a female goat, a male lamb and a female lamb.
Okay. So, Mishna carries on. Hare alai shor. So if he says, I'm going to bring an ox as an offering, okay, yavi hu unesacha b'maneh. So it and all of its libations need to be worth a minimum of a maneh of 100 dinars. That is, okay. What is why? Where does 100 come from? It's that was the average cost. That was for an ox and all of its libations together. So this is the assumed value of what you're going to bring to the mikdash. Okay, if he says stam an ayil, yavihu and esachav b'shtayim. If he says sorry, I skipped one. There's egel. If he says I'm going to bring a calf, it and its libations are for chamesh sela. It doesn't specify the currency, but Kahati helpfully points out that this is a sela. A sela is 4 dinars. So really, what this is 20 dinars. It's interesting. I find that the market value of the ox is so much more than that of a calf. Anyway. Ayel yavihu unesacha b'shtayim. So that's two sela, which is 8 dinars. Keves yavihu unesacha b'sela. And if it's just a sheep, then you just need 1 sela of value for it and its libations together. However, if he specifies shor b'maneh, he says I'm going to bring an ox worth a maneh. Then yes, he does have to bring an ox that's worth 100 by itself, chutz min hasachav, but he can't count the libations into it. So that 100 that we said earlier was when he didn't specify the value of the ox. But if the ox itself is 100, then the libations come on top of that. Egel b'chamesh yavi b'chamesh chutz min hasachav. Ayel b'shtayim yavi b'shtayim chutz min hasachav. Keves b'sela yavi b'sela chutz min hasachav. Basically exactly the same statement for all the other types of animals. If he says that he's going to bring that specific value of animal, then it doesn't include the libations. Okay. Shor b'maneh. If he says I'm going to bring an ox for 100 dinars, v'hevi shnayim b'maneh, and he bought 2 oxen whose collective value was 100. Lo yatsa. That is not what he said he was going to bring. Afilu ze b'maneh chaser dinar, v'ze b'maneh chaser dinar. He brought 2 oxen, each worth 99. Nope. That is not. He has not fulfilled his obligation. Okay. Shachor v'hevi levan. If he said he was going to bring a black ox and he brought a white one, and he brought a black one. Gadol v'hevi katan. If he said he was going to bring a large one and he brought a small one, lo yatsa. He has not fulfilled his obligation. Katan v'hevi gadol yatsa. However, if he said he was going to bring a small one and he actually brought a large one, then he was yotze. Rebbe Omer lo yatsa. Now, Rebbe says he has to bring exactly what he said, even if he can't even bring larger. And now, having read what Rebbe said over here, we suddenly have some context for the previous Mishnayos that we just learned over here, Chazara on. Remember where we said that he said what he was going to bring, but he doesn't remember what he was going to bring. And we said he had to bring a bull and a cow, a calf and a female calf. Okay. What's a calf if not a small ox?
Yeah.
Okay, so we learn now that the previous Mishnah was Rebbe.
Okay.
You see that because Rebbe says you can't, if you said you were going to bring a small ox, you have to bring a small one. So whereas Chachamim would say no, if he said he was going to bring a calf and he actually brought a bull, sure he's Yotzei. He said he was going to bring a small and he brought a large. So that situation that we saw yesterday, where he's bringing all the Noah's Ark of all different types of things, and that also seems to be consistent with Rebbe's opinion that when we were talking about a mincha, and he said he specified a number of menachos that he was going to bring, but he doesn't remember what, and they said, and the Chachamim said, okay, so bring 60, and what did Rebbe say? He said, no, you can't just bring 60.
Yeah.
You got to bring 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., just to be sure that that the number that you said is actually included in there.
And that, right.
Okay, so that's so there we see again Rebbe's opinion in terms of animals. Okay, Mishnah Tes, Shor Ze Ola, if he designates an animal as an Ola, Benis Taib, and develops a mum. Okay. Im Ratza Yavi B'damav Shnayim. If he wants, he can bring. So once he's redeemed it, and he's got the money, and now he's got money that's sanctified for something. Now he says, "Oh, he has a good deal. I can get these 2 bulls over here for the same money." And if he wants, he can do that, because he didn't make a personal obligation. He just sanctified a specific bull, and now the money is sanctified, and he spends it on 2 animals. Fine, let him bring 2 animals, not a problem. Shnei shvarim elu ola, if he designates two oxen as an ola, v'nistavu, and both of them developed a mum. Imratza yavi b'dmeim echad. Then he can take the money and buy 1 big one if he wants, no problem. Rabbi Yoser, Rabbi again says he cannot do this. Why? Let's see why he. Im hikdish echad. Rabbi Osei lechatchila, he only says lechatchila you shouldn't do this, but b'diavad he agrees that if he brought 2 instead of 1 or 1 instead of 2, he's still yotzei. Right? Rabbi just wants to keep the same number of animals. Okay, but in this particular case, he says it's just a lechatchila, because he said shorezeh, not harei alai. He said he didn't make it a personal obligation. He just sanctified a specific animal. Okay, so if he says this ram is going to be an ola, b'nistayev, and develops a mum, in ratzah yavi b'nemav keves, so he can even use the money to bring a lamb, or to bring taleh. It doesn't say taleh; it says a sheep. But hold on, a keves is a. Yeah, from a different species. Why is an aisle different from a keves? Perhaps because it's older. Maybe a keves is sort of an immature sheep. Keves zeola v'nistav imratay yavi b'demav aisle. And similarly, if he had a keves and it developed a mum, and he wanted to he redeemed it and wants to spend the money on an aisle, he's welcome to do that. Again, Rabbi Oseh says it's aseh lechatchila.
This ram shall be an ola offering, and it became blemished. If he wishes, he may bring a lamb with the money.
A lamb. Okay, so it says keves. Right. Interesting that it uses keves here and taleh in the previous Mishnah.
Yeah.
All right.
And then he does the opposite on the next one. He says the lamb shall be an ola offering, and it became blemished. If he wishes, he may bring a ram with its money. And Rebbe says
right.
no.
Yeah, again. So that's exactly what we just read. Yeah. So and Rebbe says don't do this lechatchila. Ha'omer echad mikvasai hekdesh. He says one of my lambs is hekdesh. Ve'echad mishvarai hekdesh, and one of my oxen is hekdesh. Hayu lo shnaim. If he had 2, so how do we know which one he meant? Hagadol shebehen hekdesh. We assume that when a person gives to the mikdash, they're giving with ein yafeh.
Right.
And he says so the bigger one is assumed to be the hekdesh. Shlosha. What if there were 3? Habenoni shebehen hekdesh. We take the middle one. Perashti ve'en yodeh ma perashti. The guy says, I specified which of my sheep is supposed to be an ola, but I don't remember which one now. Or Shemar Amar Abba, my father said that he'd sanctified one of his animals and then he died and he didn't get to tell me which one. Then we assume that the largest one of them is hekdesh.
Right.
Okay. Mishnah Yud.
Okay.
A guy says, I take on myself to bring an ola offering. Yakrivena b'mikdash. So of course he has to bring it in the mikdash. Sorry, I forgot. Before we go into this Mishnah, we have to do a little history lesson. And there are a couple of versions of the story that Kahadi brings in the introduction to the Mishnah, of a certain Kohen whose name was Chonyo. And there was some either somebody played a trick on him or he played a trick on somebody else, and tried to make there was some competition as to who was going to be the Kohen Gadol, and they tricked somebody into wearing I think women's clothing in the mikdash. I'm not sure how they did it, and then pulled out everyone and said ha ha ha, and at any rate, the end result of it was that this Chonyo fled down to Alexandria in Egypt.
Right.
And instead of and he said, well, if I can't be Kohen Gadol in Yerushalayim, then I'll be Kohen Gadol in Egypt. And he built a whole Beis HaMikdash in Alexandria, which was and it's again the stories sort of vary as to whether he had good intentions or didn't have good intentions, and because obviously you can't bring a korban outside Yerushalayim, and he's asking people to bring korbanos outside Yerushalayim. It was the whole thing was based on the same architecture as the temple, but there's the favorable way of reading it for him was that he was just encouraging goyim to come and bring korbanos, but it turned out that some Jews who lived in Alexandria thought, oh, this is much more convenient than going to Yerushalayim. So let's say you have a situation where a Jew says, Hare olai ola. He says, I'm going to bring an ola.
Right.
His obligation is to bring it in the mikdash. Ve'im hekriva b'veis Chonyo lo yatsa. And if he brought it in the temple of Chonyo, not only is he not yotze, but he's chayev on shkutei chutz. Remember that whole section that we learned about bringing a korban outside the mikdash? He's chayev kares for that. She'akrivena b'veis Chonyo. He says, I'm gonna bring an ola in Beis Chonyo. That's his obligation. That's what he said when he took on his obligation. Yakrivena b'mikdash. We disregard his part of the statement that says, I'm going to bring it in Beis Chonyo, because that's just like stupid. You can't do that. But we do hear him saying that he's going to bring an ola and he has to bring it in the mikdash. Ve'im hekriva Beis Chonyo yatsa. But if he did actually taka bring it in Beis Chonyo, then we say, okay, so in his mind he was putting a condition on his ola that if he killed it outside of the temple, then he wouldn't be chayav for a replacement. That's all that we use his statement of Beis Chonyo to say, is that he's not going to be held liable for replacing this animal. Okay, so yatsa just means that he doesn't have to bring another one. On the other hand, he's still chayav for shchutei chutz. Okay. Rabbi Shimon Omer ein zola. He says when a person makes a statement like this, it's the whole statement is absurd, and he's not obligated in anything. Hareni Nazir. If he says, I'm going to be a Nazir, yigalech b'mikdash. So his obligation is, when he's finished his Naziris, he has to shave in the mikdash. V'im gilach b'veis Chonyo lo yatsa. And if he had himself shaved in Beis Chonyo. Now, of course, remember the Nazir in Chutz La'aretz doesn't count, because Chutz La'aretz has got tumah all over. So in any case he can't complete his Naziris. And if he shaved himself in the Beis Chonyo, he cannot get rid of his Naziris like that. She'agalech b'Beis Chonyo, if he took it on with the condition that he was going to shave in Beis Chonyo, yigalach b'mikdash. He still has to go to the mikdash, of course. Ve'im gilach b'Beis Chonyo yatsa. But if he did actually shave in the Beis Chonyo, then what does it mean that he was Yotze? The Gemara explains that we're not talking. The reason is not because of an Ola, because an Ola you could say, okay, he didn't really mean for an. He's just not going to replace an Ola, but he himself is a Nazir. How's he going to get rid of his obligation? Okay, so the reason why he's pater over here is that a person who made this Naziris on condition that he's going to shave in Beis Chonyo, this is simply to cause pain to himself, and since he just intended for whatever reason to inflict pain on himself, and since he lived close to Beis Chonyo and far from Yerushalayim, he said, look, if it's possible for me to bring it in Beis Chonyo, then I'll then I'm going to make the effort. I don't want to make more of an effort than that. So therefore, he didn't get a Naziris at all, and he's not chayiv at all in Giloch and Korbanos.
It's not an Ola offering.
Yeah, so it's not, and we're not talking about an Ola, we're talking about the Naziris.
Okay.
So he's not he's not even called a Nazir for when he's doing this. So then he's and he's also not even chayiv because of shchutei chutz, because whatever he said is just not a. Oh, beg your pardon. Wait, I'm reading the wrong part of the commentary. You're right. It's because of shchutei chutz. If he says yeah, okay, that was talking about the Ola, that he doesn't want to take the trouble of bringing this Ola all the way, but. The Tzara Tzmo, okay.
That's Reb Shimon who says. Reb Shimon says there's not an Ola offering.
I'm going to I'm battling to find the explanation by scanning the Hebrew over here. So I'm going to bring out my Kahati again. So if he says, okay, Gemara explains it here. Unlike the case of the burnt offering, we cannot presume to have stipulated that on condition I shall not be liable for it, since by assuming the status of a Nazir, he has perforce committed himself to offer up the relevant sacrifice. Rather, we must say that a prospective Nazir who stipulates to shave in the house of Chonyo just intended to deprive himself. Since the house of Chonyo was near and Yerushalayim was far, he was prepared to offer the sacrifices in the former, but considered the latter too distant and the journey burdensome. So this prevents the Nazir status from taking effect, and he's not liable to shaving or any sacrifices. And therefore, he's also not liable for shkutei chutz. Okay, that's what I said. But he must refrain from drinking wine, not as a Nazir, but on account of his vow. And that's the meaning of if he shaved his hair in the house of Konya, he fulfilled his obligation, i.e. what? It amounts to a vow of temporary abstinence of wine. Some consider this undertaking to become a Nazir to persist, according to the Chazal, provided his declaration likewise implied an unqualified assumption of Naziris that requires shaving and sacrifices in the temple of Yerushalayim, as well as signifying a vow of abstinence from wine. If he then shaved in the temple, it became evident that he had chosen to become an outright Nazir, whereas if he shaved in the house of Chonyo, his was a mere vow of abstinence. So we're saying that it wasn't really a proper Naziris that he took on. He just took on basically not to drink wine. And that's all that we can take, because even to become tamei, he's sitting in chutzlaret, so that doesn't, he can't not become tamei. Okay. Now switching on to Beis Chonyo again. The Kohanim who served in Beis Chonyo, lo yishamshu b'mikdash b'Yerushalayim, they are banned from serving in Yerushalayim. Once they've done that, we're going to penalize them and say, that was very bad what you did, and we're not going to allow you anymore to serve in Yerushalayim. And of course, if they were serving in Beis Chonyo, they get banned. If they also served as a priest to Avodah Zarah, then for sure, Shneimar ach lo yalu kohanei habamos el mizbach Hashem b'Yerushalayim. So we got a passage that says those kohanim who serve on the altars of idolatry should not serve mizbeach of Hashem in Yerushalayim. Ki im achlu matzos b'soch achehem. They can come and eat matzah with their brothers. That's it. Harehem kabali mumin. They're treated as if they're a bal mum. So they can come and eat from the korbanos, but they are disqualified from service from here on.
That's very strange that they're allowed to eat the matzah.
Well, they're given the status of a Baal Mum. No more doing the avodah. Sorry, you lose that cover, but they can come. These are guys who've done Teshuvah. which assuming that they've done teshuva.
Right.
But even though even though they've done teshuva for it, sorry, the damage is done. You've already been a priest to Avodah Zarah, and we're not going to allow you now to come and serve in the temple. Okay, we're just going to be able to do one or two chazaras because we're running out of time and I need to run.
Menachos tomorrow. I'll continue.
Okay, so Yud Zayin, Menachos Yud Zayin.
But where are we going tomorrow?
Chulin.
Okay. Where are we? Good sign. Okay. Okay. Wheat, barley, spelt, oats, and rye are subject to cholera and combine with one another. They are forbidden to be eaten as kadash before Pesach and from being reaped before the Omer. If they took root before the Omer renders them permissible, but if not, they are forbidden until the following Omer. We may reap the irrigated fields in the valleys, but we may not stack. The people of Jericho reaped with the approval of the common and stacked against the common wishes. For the common did not issue a protest against them. One may reap unripe grain and feed it to the animals, said Rabbi Yehuda when he began before reached a third. Rabbi Shimon says he may reap and feed even if he has reached a third. We may reap for the benefit of the sapling for the place of mourning, and in order to avoid a cessation of study, he may not make them into bundles. Rather, he may leave them in heaps. The commandment of the Omer is that they should come from the standing grain, and if he did not find, he may bring from the sheaves. His commandment is that it shall come from the fresh. If he did not find, he may bring from the dry. His commandment is that it may be reaped by night. If it was reaped by day, it's valid and it overrides Shabbos. Okay. Yeah, you have to go?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go now. Okay.
All
Thank you
right,
very
so
much. We'll see you in session tomorrow.
Okay, bye.